2x2 formation. Road change now, we go racing for the first time this season. 3 hours of GT action is go.
It's very tight as they come down. Group of cars coming in. This has all got trouble written all over it. This is G3 cars.
Drop downhill there, head towards the Aqua Minerale. Imola, of course. There's another one off through the gravel. As wide as possible as they drop downhill, putting that truck inside line. Yes, he did. Through he goes.
Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Welcome along to Apex Online Racing Tier 2, Round 2, here at the notorious Nürburgring GP circuit. Possibly going to be mixed weather this evening, so a little bit of everything. I am joined once again in the commentary booth by John. Good evening, John.
Good evening to you, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Had a good old iron out of all the issues from last time, so fingers crossed everything is all up and running for this one. So I do apologise to all the viewers last time. I know there was issues with liveries and bits and pieces, but that all appears to have been ironed out now. So we are jumping out immediately with qualifying. Everyone diving out of the pits, trying to make the most of the dry track. It's only fast at the moment rather than optimum, but I'm sure if it stays dry, which it looks like it's going to be cloudy but dry for the next 30 minutes, so qualifying should be okay. But you never know, sometimes this game likes to throw a right spanner in the mix and mess everything up for everyone, so who knows.
Yeah, absolutely. The randomness for the weather here this week is pretty high. But looking at that forecast, I think these guys should be safe for a dry session. But there's a pretty high chance that we could see at least some rain during the race. In Tier 1 yesterday, ended up going from wet to dry. And being quite a sort of strategic aspect of that race of when did you come in to the pits to go onto those slick tyres, because gambling on that transition of when is the track actually truly going to be ready for slick tyres, factoring in how greasy it is, the temperature that you can actually generate in the tyres, making sure that you get your pressures kind of in the right window for the long term. In those sorts of conditions, it's so tricky, but yeah, so we'll have to see what sort of challenge they end up facing when it comes to the race. But they've at least got a pretty straightforward qualifying session, which I'm sure that all of the guys on the grid will be pretty happy about.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So, like I said, I watched a little bit of the Tier 1 race yesterday, and yeah, it was little bit slippery at the start, and again, watching those that tyre strategy, it's like you said, it's all going to come down to that this evening, and we've got a lovely story from John, which we can hear about from Season 8 involving tyre strategies and how sometimes they don't always work out. But for now, we're going to stay on with Jay Allen, as this is our first man on a flying lap, so let's see what kind of time he can put in. Obviously, this is not going to be his best lap, but it is our first flyer, so we'll stick with him for a little bit longer. And then we will jump to car 724, as he's been asked for in the chat. Trying to work out which car is 724. Let's see if we can track that one down.
I'm looking for it as well, actually. I can't see.
It's Andrad.
So it is part of Van Wall, the Van Wall team, I believe, and I think everybody's liveries from that team should be working this race amongst everyone else's, because they've got Connor Wright's entry with the M4, Marlon in the Ferrari, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, do they have one more, or am I making that up? There's a good chance I'm making it up, because I think I recall Connor running a McLaren in Tier 1 of previous season. Yes, I do believe I am. Oh no, there's Dennis Latz in another Ferrari. I thought there was one final Van Wall car, but yeah, so
okay.
Completing that trio.
Okay, so on the actual teams from the last standings, there's only Van Wall, car number 85. Oh, sorry, Van Wall 1 and 2. So, whether or not they're separate teams, or I'll have to have a double check and have a look through the other standings in a minute. I may have got myself slightly confused. But right, Alan coming up towards the end of his first flying lap. What is he going to do? What is the benchmark? And how quickly is it going to change around him?
Yeah, I'd expect to see quite a bit of improvement with the track. 55.1, not too bad for initial banker. What's Razir gonna done? 54.4. I did see in the practice session, I think they started to dip into the 53s, and the track has just switched to optimum. So maybe as these guys get a bit more confidence in the car, tyres maybe more up to pressure and temperature on their second attempt, and with that track just starting to creep into optimum, we might start to see those times tumble even further. But some pretty decent banker laps so far from everybody.
Yeah, see, I think I was having a bit of a look through the Tier 2 Discord, and the guys were saying that if they got 153s, they were going to be pretty happy with that. So, I mean, that was in qualifying, so who knows? Obviously, race pace can change everything. It's amazing that the times people suddenly pull out the bag in when they're actually racing. I'm just on board with Andrad now, who is on his first flying lap, I believe.
I think he's on his second, but he invalidated the first, because it looks like he did 55.7 last lap, so we'll be having another crack at it this time. But yeah, you know, you're absolutely right. When it comes to race pace, sometimes that aspect of being pushed by people around you or trying to go for that position up ahead of you can just extract that extra bit of performance from you. And although the lap times, obviously it's very unlikely that they would achieve the same sort of lap times they would from qualifying, the relative pace that you can achieve in the race in this right kind of scenario can actually be quite exceptional sometimes, and it really shows the difference between sort of the drivers that are consistent throughout the season, able to achieve good results on a regular basis by being able to withstand that pressure and maintain that sort of consistency throughout the race, versus those that maybe end up losing it at some point during the race or season. As Marlon goes up to 8th with a 54.4, so that's a pretty good lap from him. Razir is already into the 53s, so we've already broken into that barrier. Razir obviously the winner from round 1 at Paul Ricard with that exceptional three-way fight down to the wire, as Pitchik goes up into provisional P2. Good to see Pitchik in that Bentley making his way nearer to the top again. Obviously quite a decent front runner last season, and another one who was up there. Caracas has just gone on provisional pole as well. So we're starting to see not just some familiar names from last week, but also from last season making their way to the top of the timesheets. And I think Nürburgring has got a pretty good BOP as well. For having a range of cars being competitive. I've even seen the Lexus that was, I think, provisional fastest in the practice session. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this one pans out.
Could be anyone's race. As a quick one, just a reminder from Season 8, obviously it was the mixed weather circuit, and I think actually what ended up happening is the leader crossed the line with maybe a second or two to go, so everyone had to do one more lap than they were expecting, which did not play into Grantas Caracas' hands. I think he was in 4th or 5th at the time, came through the final chicane and completely ran out of fuel and just about managed to coast to the line, but he was outside the top 10, might have even been outside the top 15 if memory serves me well. But it was suddenly a battle that was a battle for, I think 4th or 5th, I'm sure, and then suddenly dropped back, so he'll be hoping for some better luck this time round. Oh, there we go. Keys takes the pole position at the moment. 1:53.795. So.
It's Marlon then snatches it away from him.
And he does. Now. There he goes.
Also, I've noticed in the chat that whilst we have showcased the 742 car, that unfortunately that wasn't actually the original request. It seems that 724, which is Daniel Pashka, currently in 10th place in the McLaren, is the car that was wanting to get the shout out on stream. But we did some good promotion for Van Wall SimSport anyway.
We've got him up there now, and that is an amazing livery. Absolutely fantastic. Reminds me quite a lot of the old Lister Storm livery that you used to be able to get on what was it? Gran Turismo A-Spec, I think it was, or possibly. It used to be the Lister Storm GT car. Very similar to that on this McLaren. And yeah, sorry about the number mistake. As I said before, really dyslexic. So numbers aren't not the greatest. As I was sure I read that right.
Different livery.
Yeah, and it's a really good livery to be fair. What time is he been putting in? Let's get my timing board up. Come on, Mr. Timing Board. Where everything's changing so quickly. As always, ACC having a little bit of a slow moment. So his best is a 1:54.162. So he's... Oh, big mistake there at the final chicane. Pushing too hard. And that's lost him some time. So we'll move away from him for a minute. Let's not give him too much of the old commentator's curse. Trying to see... Oh, Mark Toll taking pole. So that's the Porsche up there.
3 sectors as well. There's a 53.3. That's a that's a pretty handy lap there.
That's a big old improvement
from Mark. Yeah, and the Porsches were looking extremely competitive yesterday in Tier 1, both in the wet and the dry conditions. If it hadn't been for the contact between Malinowski and Luke Whitehead in the early stage of that race, they did look like they were set in the Porsches to maybe not comfortably pull away. I think Buckley would have continued to give them a run for their money. But they definitely did look like they had good pace. So the Porsche, another car that is good around this circuit and not suffering from the same sort of horribly poor top speed performance that they would have all been having to deal with at Paul Ricard. So they've got a pretty good chance of being able to make some overtakes around here as well, which I'm sure all of the Porsche drivers in any of the tiers for AOR will be very pleased about.
I think the only place the Porsches do struggle a little bit in the AOR GT3, like the Sprint series, is because you're not allowed to refuel. I know that supposedly the Porsche does get quite front-end light when tank starts getting quite low. So towards the end of the race, when your tyres are already possibly at their most worn, you're then running even less fuel, so you've got less front-end grip. I mean, these guys, they're aliens, so they seem to be able to make it work anyway. But I have heard from quite a few people that drive the Porsche, and they do say that they quite often will overfuel slightly. But obviously, when the competition is this tight, and I mean, you could see, what is it, the top 19 are within a second. You know, it really shows sort of how close everything is, really. Like, you can't afford to run an extra, 10 litres of fuel, because that weight is just going to do you wrong, isn't it, really? So Climbs, I think, is about to start a flyer as well. He's our second fastest Porsche. I'm trying to see if there's been any more change further up the grid. I don't think there has been.
Just following Marlon at the moment, he's basically matching his time. He's currently sitting in P2, 2/10 off that absolutely stellar lap from Mark Toll. So whether or not he gains a decent chunk through a chicane, being a bit brave.
Oh!
Okay, he was loose on the exit. A good save though to bring it into the pit lane, but I'm sure that wasn't quite what he was aiming to achieve with that one.
No.
I'm surprised that he didn't box and get a new set of tyres. It would only mean that we'd have one flying lap left to go, but with the new tyre model that came out of 1.8, the tyres do generally seem to be a bit more sensitive to when you have those offs and those big spins, but maybe didn't suffer too much. So he'll be looking to try to get in a couple more attempts there. But yeah, to follow up on what you said about the Porsche, you're absolutely right, and quite often the setup approaches that these guys have to take with the Porsche have to really be a compromise between how the car is going to feel at the beginning of the race versus how it's going to feel at the end of the race. And do you go for something that's going to work sort of nicely during the middle stint? Is it going to be amazing at the start and you try to break away? Or do you want that overall stability at the end when the car can get a bit tail happy, the tyres might be wearing down a bit, and try to set it up like that? So it really does take a lot of effort with the Porsche to get it set up into a window that they're really happy with, and it's really kind of, I would say, the only car where that amount of detail has to be paid attention to with it. A lot of other cars, you do have to make considerations with tyre wear and everything, but they don't change quite as dynamically as the Porsche does during the race. So it is an additional challenge, but sometimes with some fantastic rewarding performance.
Yeah, the guys that can drive the Porsche, I mean, it's not a car I seem to be able to drive. I struggle too much with understeer on it, but that's just the way I drive. I sort of like to be able to throw the car in and almost, how do I describe it? Maybe slide it ever so slightly, and I find that I can't quite do that with the Porsche. I find it tends to let the front end go before the rear, which isn't my normal style of driving. But then again, I'm very slow. Oh, Pitchick, massive improvement, up into 6th place with a 1:53.7. That's a massive improvement by him. He was well outside the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was sort of, well, just outside of it actually. But yeah, massive improvement there.
Polyars as well. Pole sitter from last week just went up into 10th. Might be slightly disappointed that he's not nearer to the front, because he, obviously last race the pole position started off fantastically for him, but then as time went on, the race pace wasn't quite there, and it did start to go a bit downhill. But maybe he's taken a different approach, learnt from the mistakes of last week, of how his race was compromised by the sort of pace that he lost as time went on with the tyre wear, and maybe he's just got a setup that's good in different sorts of conditions, and he might start to really come alive in the race if we do have changeable conditions. But not a bad effort from him so far.
A big improvement from Massoum as well. He was dropped just outside the top 5, now back up in 2nd position. Obviously, he came 3rd overall in our round 1 after losing, was it 2 positions or just the 1 on the final corner? I think it might be 2.
It was 2. He lost the position to Razier with 1 corner to go, and then when he was slightly blocked off, completely fair, but hard racing, didn't really have anywhere to go, and Korekis timed his cutback to perfection, and then managed to outdrag the Ferrari to the finish line. So yeah, in 2 corners he lost 2 positions after putting in an incredible performance during the race. So he'll be disappointed, or I'm sure he was disappointed with that. But starting on the front row this time, it looks like
I wouldn't say that yet. I'm going to say Andrade is 0.1, nearly 0.2 up on his best lap. So we might see it could change. 0.3 at one point. We could see him go pole. Can he do it? He does! A 1:53.345. An amazing last second effort.
To 3rd.
And he's in 3rd as well.
I'm so sorry, you've lost 2 positions in the final stages of qualifying now. So he's lost 2 positions in the final lap of Paul Ricard. He's now lost 2 grid positions. on the final stages of qualifying, and that will be it now. So he shouldn't be able to move any further down than that. But fantastic effort there from both Marlon and Keys, who I believe also did the equal fastest final sector to Mark Toll, but really fine margins at the end there.
It was insanely close, wasn't it? So, oof. I'm trying to think now who's going to be on the outside and inside for turn 1. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, the inside for turn 1, you can defend your position better, but that also means you've then got a higher chance of sort of getting bumped. But if you've got to go around the outside, although it's possibly sort of less busy, not everyone diving for the apex, you are then dealing with the issue of if oh no, and Andre, he gets a 15-second penalty.
That must be carried over from
30.
From an incident.
Yes, yes, it is. It is from last.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it is.
At least he's starting on pole position to try to minimise the damage of that. But I would say that unless something really dramatic happens during the course of the race, to say that's going to hamper his chances of winning here, as the number 40 car of Polyakov has also got a 30-second time penalty, so we'll see how many more of these comes through. But yes, that is definitely going to hamper his chance. Goslin has got a 30-second penalty as well in the 451 down in 37th. But what an unfortunate disappointment there for Marlon.
Yeah, and Ivanov as well, who I'm not sure I've seen his name on the grid this evening. He's picked up a 30-second penalty as well.
Yeah, that hasn't appeared for me, I don't think. So I'm not sure he's going to be driving tonight.
Okay, so I would imagine that's probably going to then hang over into meet 3. Okay, so let's have a quick run through the grid. So on pole is Andrade in the, well, leading Ferrari. A great effort by him. Then we have Mark Toll in 2nd position. Then we have Ben Keys, 3rd. Massoum, who got bumped down to 4th position. Grantas Caracas in 5th. Tommy Rozier in 6th position. Juko Terminen in 7th. Jan Garbus in 8th. Pichik in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 is Jan Klimes in 10th position. Do you want to run through the next 10 for me?
Yeah, of course. As we've got Gregory Gobsmacker in 11th, Dennis Latz in 12th, followed by his Van Wall SimSport compatriot Connor Wright in 13th. Olyars, our pole sitter from Paul Ricard, down in 14th place. So I'm sure that he is going to be a bit on the disappointed side for that one, but maybe he can pull it back during the race. Leonard Makovkin in 15th. Followed by that very nice livery of Daniel Pashka's 724 car. Polyakov, another one of our drivers, starting with a 30-second penalty, so it might be a bit more difficult to recover that time than it will be for Marlon, but we'll see how he gets on. Kamenev in 18th, Sheldon Muscat in 19th, good showing from him in the Audi. And then rounding out the top 20 is Vince van Meerveld, finishing 4th, I believe, at Paul Ricard. So he will be potentially a little bit disappointed with that, but we'll see what he can do from there. Usually quite consistent and good in the races. So we'll see if he can work his way up through the order there.
Yeah, the fans of Meerveld will not be happy that he's that far down the grid. So from last season, he was always... all of his fans were quite big and loud in the chat, so I'm sure at some point they will make an appearance. Right, so in 21st position is Torregrossa in his very bright pink BMW, and that is absolutely blindingly bright.
Slightly garish.
It is a little bit garish, isn't it? Chonkers down in 22nd, Steinhauser in 23rd, Yang Gang, in 24th, Dana Luke in 25th, Matt York, and again, as we said last, he's not in his signature Aston Martin. He's in his a Bentley this season. He's down in 26th. James Cowley, 27th. Who have we got here? We have Meme in 28th. Joshua Allen in 29th. Jay Fang in 30th. And who have we got here? And we've got Janek Roof in 31st place. I will just finish off the rest of the list. Yarabowski down in 32nd. Totev in 33rd. I couldn't think of the word then. Ostosh in 34th. Shooter 80, which I'm sure is not his first name or his last name. In 35th position. 36th is Benjamin King. Dylan Goslin in 37. I don't know why I felt the need to say Ryan Gosling then. He's obviously on my mind. And at the back of the grid is number car 107, and that is Wajoris, number 38. I am going to come out and say, though, that this Bentley wins best livery for me. It's pretty great. It's, you know, it's a bit out there with his great big anime girls down the side and on the bonnet. It's certainly a look at this car.
It reminds me of the creativity that we saw in the liveries from Black Goldsaw a few seasons ago, when he was representing the Mercedes, and he would turn up with his rather curious-looking Hello Kitty livery, which was always one to keep an eye on, not just because he was quite often competing at the front, but you certainly couldn't miss it, because even in the night races, usually the hot pink accents that were coming off that livery would come blinding through the darkness anyway, so always making himself known.
I mean, a good bright livery is a good idea in my opinion. You know, much better chance of people seeing you, less chance of having a bump. You know, it sometimes pays, I think, to have a slightly garish, just a little bit garish livery. I think it works. And, you know, it's nice for us to look at as well. It really points out.
Yes, I imagine then that being the case, that Van Wall SimSport took inspiration from a high-vis jacket with the colours on their livery. It's a very nice-looking livery, but maybe slightly inspired by that. On an aside, an interesting point, look at the weather. 30 minutes... and still no sign of changing weather whatsoever. So it looks like, certainly for the first half of this race, that we're going to have a completely optimal dry track. So whether or not that ends up playing into the favour of other people more so in this first half, we shall have to see. But it could make for an interesting series of final minutes if we end up getting some late rain, and whether or not people end up gambling onto wet tyres, or they try to stick out on the slicks, and how good are their cars in terms of setup for being able to adapt to those conditions. And also, when do you make your pit stops? Do you just hope it's going to be dry for the rest of the stint and just go for slick tyres, or do you try sticking out for as long as possible to see what the weather's going to do? We'll have to find out. But the car's now lining up at the final corner, and we are about to get this race underway.
Toll is really trying to get his nose up beside him, isn't he? Really fantastically. My my software is just frozen, so I really do hope it's all still looking fine on the stream, but at the moment I can't change cars, which is just glorious. And they go green, off they go. Really good start by Toll, actually a terrible start by Andred, and it looks like he's going to lose 2 positions down into turn 1. Maybe not, maybe just the one.
Careful. Oh, he's got to be so careful. Almost hits the back of Toll there. Toll actually had to give him room on the exit. Oh, there's been contact between.
Oh no, he's gone!
Keys.
Oh, has he been collected? Has he been collected?
I don't think he was collected by any other cars, thankfully. I think that was actually Masoom and Marlon. Masoom just stuck his nose up the inside. It was a bit similar to the contact we saw with Hosseini and Niels yesterday in Tier 1. I can see there's some other bunching up on the grid. I saw Pashka giving Kamenev a little bit of a bump through that opening sequence of corners, but I think the rest of the drivers got through fairly. Oh, I say that, and Dennis Latz and Lexus of, I think it's Terminal, almost spun around Latz there. So 2 Van Wall SimSport cars already getting quite a lot of hits early on, and carnage already happening. But Marlon's race was already pretty heavily damaged with that 30-second penalty to start with, and yeah, with that contact. Oh, as Razir just had a moment in the background I saw there as well, so he's made a mistake. So already complete carnage going on in the opening lap of this race.
Someone who has not had any problems is Toll. He's broken away straight away. We saw him very dominant on the start. I do apologise. For some reason the software is locked up at the moment. So I'm actually kind of stuck for a minute being able to change anyone's cars, so I do apologise if we are currently just watching Toll. I'm just waiting for it to all come back to life. For some reason, it is
keeping
not
you up to date on other things. In the meantime, Lats and Razir were going side by side on the way up towards the final chicane. Couldn't do anything about it in the meantime. We've got Polyakov trying to put Lats under pressure. His Porsche already looking a little bit beaten up early on. There was a yellow flag somewhere on the circuit. Oh, Polyakov has a massive dive, and he's hit Razir. There's been contact at the first corner. Several cars going wide and off. Razir, our race winner last time out. Complete innocent victim there. Polyakov ended up sending it massively at turn 1, and Razir, there was just nothing he could do about that. Spun around, so he's got quite a heavily damaged car now. I think down about 13 places. There's someone else off in the background. Cars avoiding on the exit, manages to get out of the way, although it's causing a lot of bunching up on the end of the final sector. It is Oliaza, pole sitter from Paul Ricard, has I don't know if it was contact, but he spun around and is now way at the back of the field. We've got Marlon and Benjamin King both in the pits. I fear that they may be retiring from this race. Should keep an eye on that, but I think that they may no longer be taking part in this. How are we looking on the spectating front?
Right, we're back. We are back. Apologies about that. Big lockup. Don't entirely know what happened. It just suddenly decided that I was not allowed to do anything. So I do apologise. I do also apologise if that came through on the stream. I am seeing a message that it was a bit laggy, yet not surprised. For some reason, everything just decided to just completely stop on me for a moment there. But the stream's still going, so that's the important thing. So apologies we missed a little bit of some of that first few laps action. Let's just double check everything's looking good. Yes, everything normal seems to be there, so that's a big old bonus.
Pitchick just did a rather odd movement down the start-finish straight. I think Marlon might have actually just emerged from the pits, which would be quite good. He is a lap down, but he has soldiered on with this race, so credit to him for that, because as far as I could tell, he did look like he was a bit of an innocent victim there through turn 2. I think
there's another incident at turn 1. Just seeing the yellow flags, possibly. Oh, and everyone's still moving. Sorry, I do apologise. There was the yellow flag pop up.
Though I did see a slow car notification. Oh, I think it might have been Pashka, because he's now at the back of that queue, and I'm seeing a very beaten up McLaren. That livery not looking quite as nice and shiny as it was to start with.
Oh, and another yellow flag as well. Getting slightly further back. What position is this person? You are position Pashka. Let's find Pashka. He is 17th.
I think he's down about 34th.
Okay.
Unfortunately for Pashka.
What happened there? Sorry, I was looking at a completely wrong name then. I do apologise.
It's I'm not sure. I think it was him, but it looked like he ended up being involved in some sort of incident. Andrade has to give away to Terminen there. Had a massive moment through turn 12, and I'm sure we'll be making way for his teammate Dennis Latz in just a moment. But Marlon's race is unfortunately going from bad to worse, because he's having to drop a lot of time now, giving away to blue flags, and I'm sure that he'll be getting out of the way pretty quickly, because he's got 2 of his teammates within the next 3 cars behind him.
Pretty interesting to see if he can manage to pull the old let his teammates through but not let that Porsche through. I mean, I don't think that's quite possible, but there you go. Let's his first guy through. Latz going past now. But BMW not able to get it done on the straight.
Yeah, he's got to be careful though. He can't stay there for too long.
No.
Okay, he has actually even deployed his indicator. How nice of Marlon, actually deployed his right indicator there.
Oh, but I think it's
to get out of the way.
I thought he was going to end up accidentally blocking his teammate as he went for the inside, but no. Right manages to get through. No worries. He has lost a little bit of ground though on Polyakov. So we'll be looking to regain that. Two very different cars there. The big front-engined BMW versus that rear-engined Porsche. It's going to be interesting to see how those two sort of hold it up throughout the entire race. Trying to see where the close battles will be. To be honest, this is quite a close one we're on now. 17th position. Looks like it's a pretty close battle, which is Razier. Yes, goes around the outside, gets it done. Oh, yeah, no, he's done it. He's into... Or was that Toro Grosso trying to go up the inside?
I'm not entirely sure. I know that Razier is trying to make his way back through the field after his contact, but I'm not sure if that was defence or an attack.
Oh no, I think that must have been a pass, possibly. As always, the timing board is nice. It's not always up to date as quickly as we need it to be.
Yonkers almost went straight into the back of Cowley, and it's also getting quite busy just in the train behind them, looking around sort of Matt York. There's a group of about 8 cars, all trying to battle for position. We've now got Dan Lucas gone wide on the exit of turn 12. There's got Jozefowski trying to go past him on the inside of 13. We've got the BMW now that's going to be the outside of the chicane. That's going to get scary. He cuts across his nose. Don't want to go side by side through there all too often. Can they all get through the chicane? Clearly they can. Dan Luke has a huge moment on the exit of the chicane there. Just about manages to hold onto it. And before he knows it, he's going to be under a great deal of pressure from the Anime Bentley of Vioris, who, if I'm not sure if the timing board was correct there, but seemingly may have gained several positions during the course of that lap.
Is that a position taken away or changed there? We've got car number 41. Where is car number 41? I know car number 41, I think, is out of... Oh no, that's Jay Fang. That is Jay Fang. Again, I can't read numbers for some reason this evening. I'm trying to have a little look there. That battle behind these guys is really going off, isn't it? Sort of all around. We've got Jarabowski in the only Lamborghini on the field. And they are absolutely nose to tail. He's got a BMW in front. Well, he's just mobbed by BMWs, to be fair. There's 3 of the surrounding cars are all BMWs. So really good to see him holding his own.
BMW doesn't seem to be quite as competitive on this track there's Matt York up the inside of Alan, who's then very wide. Looks like then Jay Fang is going to try to get involved in this. Don't think he can carry that momentum up towards the Schumacher S's though. And they do look like they're going to run then single file through the Schumacher S's, but yeah, that was a good move for Matt York then, and he will look to try to close down on Mame and Yang Gang. Jozefowski and Daniluk again sliding his way through that corner. He's now going to be under pressure from Vioris behind him. He lost it through turn 12 last time. He's going to gather himself a bit better. I'm not sure if Vioris is going to be able to do anything, but we've also got Totev and Jozefowski also looking pretty dicey as well, so it's a lot of intense battles ranging on, and it's really difficult to follow through that final chicane and maintain speed there. That's why we see quite a lot of mistakes sometimes from these drivers when they're battling, because that chicane can be so deadly with the curbs and bumps through there. Just about all managing to keep it together so far.
A really good final turn there by Jarabowski, managing to open up the gap ever so slightly. Looks like Jay Fang had a little look up the inside of Alan, not able to do anything. Oh no, car 777 tries to go up the inside of Jarabowski. Not quite. I think he slightly outbroke himself. Just about manages to hold on to both his positions. So pretty close there. I'm just trying to have a little look a bit further back up the grid, make sure we're not missing anything at the top. Mark Toll.
Yeah, Mark Toll is completely
he is checked out. Yeah,
is doing a pretty good job of sticking with him. Karekis has picked up the pace a bit. He did struggle to start with those first couple of laps. I think on the second or third lap he was a second slower than Mark Toll, but he has picked up the pace a bit. Pitchick looks like he's on the move. Set his fastest lap of the race on the last lap of 54.6, and is now looking to put pressure onto Jan Garbus for 4th position, but can't seemingly do anything about it quite yet. But that might be a battle to keep an eye on. But it does look like most of the action at the moment is happening down sort of around 20th. As I say, that Mame and Yang Gang have just come together, battling for 21st. We've now got Matt York on the inside of Mame trying to get that position. Just got to be careful not to make contact through 12, as then Alan then goes wide into the gravel. He's now under pressure from Jay Fang, who gets past him. Is he going to be under pressure from Yazabowski as well? He defends the inside for the chicane. He's got to be careful not to lose too much momentum through here, as they can get quite backed up from that. Yazabowski now covering off. Totev is getting very busy. We've got Shooter 80 now trying to go around the outside of him, who's now going to be under pressure from Dan Luke. So it's everyone, as soon as you go trying to make a move on one, then you've got the consequences of everyone behind you, and now Shooter 80 having to hold that inside line on the run towards turn 1, as Dan Luke is potentially going to try to go around the outside towards turn 1. They are side by side. Gives each other room. Can Dan Luke make that one work?
I think he can. He's going to have the inside here. Yes! If he can hold on to it.
Fantastic move if he can. I think he's done it. I don't think yet. Shooter 80 hasn't gone on. Oh, there's contact in the background. 3 cars, I think, involved in that.
Oh, dear.
4 cars even. Dylan Goslin and Daniel Pashka again. Now
we're doing it. We're risking it on a rewind. Yeah, that's a big old bump. That was.
Yeah, that's rather catastrophic for their races. Yeah, I didn't see how that contact originally happened, but all cars involved. And
just
Dan
watching it now.
Yeah, Dan Luke is off completely as well.
Oh, it was really unlucky. Actually, it was the BMW number 17. Yeah, Gobsmacker. He just rotated slightly and was trying to correct himself and almost just sort of drifting around the corner sideways, and just sadly just was moving slowly across the circuit while sliding. Not a great deal he could do. Maybe he should have got just hard on the brakes, and it might have held him in position. But yeah, a bit unlucky with that one, that everyone got caught up in that quite so badly. Basically, they just both had their nose cut off. So yeah, Gosling and Gobsmacker and Pashke, not gone well for him, but I think a lot of damage done to the Gobsmacker BMW.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, the battle for 27th has been raging on, as Totev and Shooter 80 went side by side to the Schumacher Aces, managed to get through there cleanly. This train has broken up a little bit, as Mame actually comes into the pits. So we're not even a quarter of the way into this race, and he is coming to pit, so we're still looking like we've got a dry forecast, as he's also followed in by Vioris. I think there's another car.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Keys is in the pits as well. So we have seemingly got at least half an hour more of dry running, so these guys might be gambling on there not being any rain at all, or at least being very little of it for wet tyres to be suitable. And trying to get themselves out of the traffic, maybe repair some of the damage that they've accumulated during the early stages of this race, and seeing if they can then get into some clean air, put in some good laps, and skip past some of these big trains of cars, because particularly at that lower end of the field, there is a lot of battling going on, and although battles make great action for us to watch, they do not help you very much when it comes to trying to maintain your race pace during the course of the stint. So it'll be interesting to see how that strategic play ends up working out. As obviously we saw some quite extreme strategies in Paul Ricard last week as well.
Who was that? I've just seen side by side. It's there's Yarabowski side by side with somebody. Who was that? It's the 777 BMW. Yeah, it's Totev. So those two side by side. Because a moment ago I could have sworn I saw Yarabowski fighting with the McLaren in front, so sudden loss of pace possibly, not sure, maybe a slight mistake from him. As I saw them side by side at one point, and then suddenly he was in the clutches of the BMWs, and again he finds himself sandwiched between 2 BMWs.
I don't think it's quite over yet, though. He's looking to try to go around the outside of Totev towards the chicane. Oh, that was so close to contact. Totev going to be deep on the chicane, getting all over the curb on the second part of the apex. Shooter 80 dives into the pits. I think when he went to the pits, Yazabowski thought he was going to go for a dive into the final corner, so actually tried to cover that off. But now Yazabowski uncontested to see if he can try to make a dive towards turn 1 on Totev. I don't know if he's going to be quite
looking up the inside,
unless he really lunges lunges for it, he thinks about it, but not actually. He goes very deep on the brakes. Got to be careful now of Daniluk behind him. Okay, no, Daniluk didn't get too much of a great exit there. So it looks like for now, Totev has got that position sorted, and the trains of cars do seem to have broken up a bit now, and I think our closest battles are now the likes for the battle for fourth between Garbus and Pitchik, as well as Connor Wright and Polyakov battling for 9th place. It looks like so. We haven't quite got the 12-car train that we had a few moments ago, but still a lot of action going on.
I wonder how hard Wright is actually going to try and defend from Polyakov if he needs to, because there's a 30-second penalty for Polyakov. So essentially, on the road, he could get past, and then quite easily could just, you know, as soon as that pit comes round or he has to serve that penalty, he's going to get the position back, isn't he? It's an awkward one with that, because obviously a bit of racer's pride, and you don't want to give up any positions, because as soon as you let one car past, there is the possibility that you sort of drop your game a little bit and more people start trying to get past. But again, like I say, he doesn't actually need to defend that position at all. He could quite easily let it go, but I think Makovkin is pretty close behind as well, actually. So yeah, that's the battle for 10th place. Let's jump back down to that, actually. Let's have a look. So Connor Wright, let's see how he's doing.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on other battles and things going on. It looks like Mark Toll's been able to maintain his advantage out front, so nothing has really happened there. In actual fact, he set the best lap of the race on the last lap, and he was 0.7 of a second faster than Masoom. He almost did a 53 on that last lap. So Mark Toll definitely keeping up good pace in that Porsche for now, and yeah, as far as the battle for fourth goes, it just looks like the straight line speed of that McLaren is a bit too much for Pitchik to be able to deal with. I think the Bentley doing better in the corners, maybe better over those curbs as well, has a bit more ride height, slightly nicer suspension to drive with, but just isn't quite capable of locking onto the gearbox of that McLaren and being close enough to make a move.
I'm just having a quick jump on now, Paul. Actually, yeah, with our race leader, car number 24, Hussein Toll, who's really dominated away. He's coming up on back markers. Who is that in front of him? It's one of the Aston Martins. Can't quite work out who that is in front. Oh, I should know.
Yannick Ruoff in 36th, I think.
Oh, so that might actually be a proper back marker there. Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah, so 36th position. Oh, Reyes! Oh, sorry, Brazier gets himself a drive-through. Drive-through for Brazier. He'll be livid about that. Hasn't gone his way this evening, has it? He obviously had an amazing drive last week, but that is sometimes just how the cookie crumbles. You win some, you lose some, I'm afraid. Getting a couple of shout-outs for Masoom, so let's have a look at him now. Oh, that red connection does make it's terrifying to watch. But I mean, I wonder if it looks as sort of as jumpy for when they're actually in the cars and racing. But I say when I'm on sort of helicopter cam or just sort of one of the outside views, it does look the car doesn't quite drive down the road as it should do. But I mean, fair play to that man. He is storming ahead. He's about a second and a half in front of Caracas. That gap hasn't really changed that much for a little while, to be fair. But I imagine Masoom will be wondering if Caracas is going to try and reel him in and try and make a same move that he did at the end of the race. I'm going to come out and say it. I think we might be up for a totally dry race this time round. Possibly. Still,
it's looking quite likely based on the current forecast, isn't it? And thinking of weather and strategies, Terminen, who was sitting inside the top 10 in the Lexus, has come in for his pit stop. So we'll have to see whereabouts that brings him out. So he so he's just coming through turn 2 and into 3 now. So he's down in 26th for the time being. I don't know if he had any damage to repair on that car, but it does look like he's obviously put on slick tyres then, and he is hoping that it will stay dry for the rest of the race and that will see him to the end. But yeah, considering the randomness of the weather, that it does seem to be remaining very dry, and we've got Dennis Latz has come into the pits as well. And do I potentially think it's a wise moment to introduce my experience of weather conditions at the Nürburgring not obeying the randomness that one might expect?
I think you can. I think this is probably the appropriate time. Fill us in on what happened in your Season 8 experience with GT3 in the wet here.
Well, I fantastically decided to also make the... it started off badly by making the bold move of deliberately qualifying in last, because I was fairly confident that there would be a horrible crash in turn 1, and I didn't want to get damaged. So I started in last, and the race started in the wet, and I was quite confident of it staying wet during the race, because there was, I think, a 98% chance of rain, with quite a low level of randomness. So I decided to pit on lap 1, get out of traffic, and just try to put in loads of fast laps, and then end up coming out pretty high up. What unfortunately happened was that after 10 minutes, the track went bone dry, stayed bone dry for the rest of the race, and through nothing but stubbornness, I stayed out for the rest of the race on, I think my tyres peaked at 45 psi, until they eventually burst on the final lap of the race, and I had 2 rear punctures and did the entire final lap with 2 punctured tyres, and believe that I missed crossing the line by about 6 seconds. And it's safe to say that the strategy didn't help me in terms of getting many points that race. So as long as these guys don't do anything quite as alarmingly stupid as that, then hopefully they should be alright.
Let's hope. It was a very interesting race to watch from the commentary booth, it has to be said. It was slightly confusing, and we were thinking to ourselves, why is his pace dropping off so much? He's just letting everyone past, and then we couldn't really work. Oh, that was a very late... Jay Gang joining the pits very late. Christ. Really cut across that curb at the last moment.
We've also got quite a hard battle going on between Muscat and Kamenev going through turn 2 and 3 now. Muscat took the inside at turn 1, but Kamenev has come back on the inside of turn 3. I don't think there's going to be anything Muscat can do there, although Kamenev does give him room as they're still side by side. Fantastic racing between them there, but I think Kamenev has got enough of an advantage as they head towards what I believe is turn 5. I'm not sure if Muscat can hold it on the... Oh, tiny bit of
still side by side.
Corner, and Muscat not happy there, flashing his lights. I didn't quite see the angle of their 2 lines. It didn't look like Kamenev particularly shut the door on him, but one way or another Muscat not too happy about that contact there, and will be looking to set up another move. But for a few corners there, that was some fantastic side-by-side action between them.
Yeah, I mean, Muscat was on the outside for that turn. And he was still slightly behind. He didn't have his nose in front, so I mean, Kamenev did technically have sort of, I don't want to say preference for the apex, but he was on the inside, he was slightly further in front, but again didn't leave an overly large amount of room on the exit, which then obviously made Muscat go a little bit wide, and say that flash of the lights definitely made it look like he was not happy about it. So let's wait and see if he can make that move again. Still only 0.3 between them, although now it's reset. Oh, still 0.3, so both looking pretty planted. No, Muscat into the pits.
Pitchik has made the move on Garbus. I didn't see when that happened, but sometime in the last few laps, Pitchik has managed to finally get himself into 4th place. He has been pushing lap after lap. The move might have happened that last lap, actually, because the last lap Garbus had a 56 dead, which is a bit of a slow one in comparison to our other guys in the top 5. So Pitchik finally managing to get past. Whether that was through a mistake from Garbus, I don't know, but he'll be now looking to try to make use of that clean air and that good pace that he's got in that Bentley to stretch a gap, but he's got to make sure he breaks away pretty quickly, because the McLaren does seem to have a decent amount of straight line speed and could put him under pressure if he's not careful. And as a couple of other notes, Mark Toll's still lapping in the 54s, whereas I think the fastest next driver on track on that last lap was Carreras with a 55.2, so he's 0.6 of a second clear of anyone else per lap at the moment. So Mark Toll's still absolutely charging away. And I also believe I found how Razier may have got his drive-through as his last chicane was curious to say the least. He effectively used the first curb as a ramp, and then did some voluntary lawn mowing for the second apex. So I imagine that may be where his drive-through track warnings have come from. And possibly driving a little bit in anger now as well with the incidents in the drive-through that he's had so far this race, as Jan Klimes has come into the pits, as well as Jan Garbus. So it'll be interesting to see where those guys come out relative to Terminen. Terminen went for a bit of an undercut, I believe, about 6 minutes ago. And Garbus has been battling with Pitchick. I think Klimes has been in somewhat clean air. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that strategy from Terminen will have given him any sort of advantage.
Ooh, a lot of people in now, isn't there? Garbus, Klimes, Kamenev, who else? We've got Steinhauser and Cowley all in the pits. I'm currently on board with our leading pitted driver. So that is Dennis Latz, is the leading pitted driver. He's still a fair way away from the start-finish line, though, so I would not be surprised if we don't really see too much of a change in position. Just coming through the final chicane now. So Klimes, I've just seen, has got his green, so he's obviously completed his pit stop.
Yeah, Garbus will be in away in just a second as well, I think, and he is. I think Klimes has gained a bit, though, in the pit stop. Maybe not too much, but maybe just different levels of damage between those two. And yet Dennis Latz now looking, actually might try to go around the outside of Klimes towards turn 1, and
yes,
he does.
Gets it done.
Yeah, Latz manages to just about get that move on Klimes, and Klimes has got to get those tyres up to temperature before he can probably do too much about reeling him in. It's still a bit more of a gap to Garbus, but now Dennis Latz, who's been putting in some pretty good laps, now might find himself actually in a good position with over half the race left to go to try battling for that top 5. So it's a great stint from him so far.
I just saw something flash up on the timing screen, and I'm not entirely sure if it was correct, but for one moment it said that Mark Toll was 7.3 seconds ahead. Caracas and Pitchick into the pits now. So Mark Toll really is absolutely dominating this first half of the race. So we're just coming up on halfway now. So we'll know in the next minute whether we're going to see any rain on the cards. So at the moment it's saying for the next 30 minutes it's dry. So possibly, I think it's going to be dry the whole way.
Yeah, I think it's looking like it. At this point, I think the chances of any rain, surprisingly, and I'm sure to these guys' frustrations, who if they've put in a decent amount of practice, I'm absolutely certain that they would have tried practicing with the wet, spending time finding what the pressures are going to be, maybe even making a setup that's quite versatile for mixed conditions. And lo and behold, it's ended up being a completely dry race. Also looking at the relative pace of cars, with Dennis Latz 53.9 on that last lap, which I think may have been the fastest lap there is. Oh, I think it was. He must have invalidated the lap somehow, because Mark Toll still has the fastest lap of the race with a 54.0. So I'm assuming Dennis Latz made a slight mistake during that lap and got the lap invalidated, but he is absolutely flying at the moment as Mark Toll comes into the pits. Will we see Massoum do the same thing? He was the one that he does. He comes into the pits as well. He went for a very extreme undercut, which benefited him a lot at Paul Ricard, but this time he's playing it safe and just going for halfway through the race and matching the leader's strategy. So good stuff from those two, because they really have managed to pull away from other drivers. Korekes is now out of the pits, and decent margin between him and Pitchik, and Garbus is not too far behind Pitchik, but hasn't been able to regain too much ground. But someone that is still very much closing the gap is Dennis Latz. He is reeling those guys in. His tyres are a little bit older, and we'll have to see what the true pace of Garbus and Pitchik is when their tyres come up to temperature. But Dennis Latz, at the moment, arguably the fastest car on track for the time being, and he is definitely looking like he wants to fight for P5, maybe even P4.
I'm confused with my timing board. I don't know what yours is saying, but it's still saying Mark Toll is on pole. Or is he down in third for you?
I think he has. No, he. Yes, I think things are a bit weird because he's. I think Pashka is technically in the lead of the race.
There we go.
Is,
it's just changed.
Incredible, considering. Sorry, actually, I've got Pashka in P2. P1, I've got Polikov, who still has that 30-second time penalty that he will have to serve when he does his pit stop. And on the weather front as well, yes, we are well beyond the halfway point of the race now, and we've still got 30 minutes of dry running. So despite I think the AOR coordinator's best attempts for some dramatic and dynamic weather changes, although it worked beautifully in Tier 1 and possibly in Tiers 3 to, I think, about 10, I believe. For Tier 2 at least, we've basically had the same track temperature, wind direction and conditions the entire race and in qualifying. So typical ACC things, I think, on that front.
Yeah. I think there's not much you can say, really, is it? Sometimes you put all the right numbers in, it just decides, no, I'm just going to be sunny today. I mean, to be fair, probably a lot of these guys are probably more happy to have it constant dry than constant wet. I mean, obviously everyone's slightly different. There are some madmen that really enjoy wet racing. I'll be honest, I really enjoy a wet race. Jumping back on board with Muscat, who is on the back of Van Meerveld. I'm trying to think, who was Muscat having a battle with earlier? Was it Kamenev?
I
Ferrari?
believe it was, yes. They went side by side through there, and he's not only ahead of him now, which he lost that position when they had contact, but he's actually got an extra car between them. So I'm not sure if that happened during the pit stops, maybe different levels of damage that needed to be repaired, or counted by a slow pit stop. Meerveld going defensive on the inside chicane, got to be so careful over that curve as now Muscat on the inside for turn 15. Can he get stopped? He's gone a bit deep. Meerveld back up the inside now. He's got to be careful.
That's contact.
There. Muscat now is probably going to be under pressure from Makovkin, and if he's not careful, then Kamenev might also have a bit of a dive up the inside as well. There's been battles between these two already. Does Kamenev think about it? Not really. Looks like they're going to settle for that. Although Muscat actually trying to go around the outside of Makovkin for a second there, but doesn't look like he's going to pull that one off as Makovkin then gets a little bit slidey through turn 2. Oh, that's getting very dicey now between Muscat and Kamenev all over again. These two already having history earlier on in the race not too long ago, and I think Muscat will be very reluctant to particularly open up any doors for Kamenev, but he's got to be careful not to get too aggressive and late on the defending, not just for stewards' inquiries, potentially post-race, but also for damaging his own race if they do have contact. But it does look like that has settled down for now, and if anyone, the driver looks a bit under pressure at the moment is Makovkin, who's made a few mistakes over the last few corners. He has actually gapped slightly Muscat now, but he was under quite a bit of pressure there for a moment, so we'll be looking to try to get a bit more consistency together and pull away a bit.
I think we've had a pit at the front, possibly? No,
I think that was
Pashki hasn't pitted.
Oh, he hasn't?
On my board, he hasn't completed a mandatory stop, but he is now down in third. So Pashki, where is he?
Yeah, he's in third. He's down towards turn 1 at the moment. Did a 56.8 on that last lap, so I presume that was due to letting Mark Toll past.
But I mean, he wouldn't have been under blue flag, so he technically didn't need to let him through. I mean, obviously, he may have realised overall pace that Toll is much quicker, and he was the pole man before pits. But surprised, because that gap was still reasonably considerate, I thought.
Oh, Meerveld and McCoffin battling into turn 1. McCoffin trying to go around the outside there. Turn 1, Meerveld with a slightly battered and bruised McLaren trying to hold him off. He does manage it. Yeah,
Muscat closer again now, isn't he? Muscat being able to close up.
Yeah, whenever. Oh, that was close. Yeah, whenever these guys start battling, it's so difficult sometimes when you're in this train, because as soon as you start battling, you're compromising your own lines, and then before you know it, Muscat in this case and Kamenev are right on your gearbox, and well, I say that Muscat's gone very wide, and we saw contact between him and Kamenev before through this series of corners. Not going to happen this time by the looks of it, but that gives Makovkin a bit of space to breathe, and Yonkers is now quite close to this train as well, so could end up getting him involved in that battle. I also saw not too long before that, Pashka's gone off. He's rejoining the circuit at turn 12. I think he's going to retire the car potentially. It looks like he is pulling that car to a halt after what has been a very difficult race. Oh, actually, no, maybe not.
He's moving.
He's
continuing to move.
He's using the very small section of tarmac on the outside of the track to rejoin. So
again, though, he can't have changed his tyres. These must just be. I mean, he hasn't pitted yet, has he? I mean, like we said, he lost a bit of time, and obviously now he. There we go. Now he's coming into the pits. I wonder if he was trying to push his tyres a bit further. Maybe he was trying to do 45 minutes on one set of tyres, and then going for a real blistering brand new set of tyres for the last sort of 15 minutes of the race, possibly. But it just hasn't gone his way, has it? It's kind of stung him in the tail. It's because he was well up there, like we said. He was in second place, then he dropped to third, and then he's just tumbled down the order.
Trying to cut you off. That battle for 13th is raging on again. Muscat and Kamenev once again side by side. Oh, Kamenev almost loses the rear of the car through turn 2. Might be under pressure now from Yonkers. He's going to have a massive dive on Muscat towards turn 3. Got to be so careful. Is it going to get closed up on the apex? They're just about managing to leave space for one another. That was good spatial awareness there from Muscat, and I'm sure he wouldn't have been too pleased about having that move sent on him, but he does manage to hold on to it for now. Yeah, these guys, every time they do another lap, they do seem to bunch up again, and there's some action in some form or another heading towards turn 1. And just following up on your point about Pashka and not pitting, the one driver that hasn't pitted, as far as I can tell, is Polikov. He's still got that 30-second penalty to serve in the pit, so he will have to, because if he doesn't pit, then he will be disqualified.
Meerveld, sorry, got a quick cut off. Meerveld, and slight contact there with the Bentley. Looked like Makovkin was trying to go around the outside, wasn't quite able to, and now he's lost the position to Muscat as well, so he's now stuck in the battle. Muscat managed to break away.
Yonkers looking at Kamenev now on the run towards the chicane. That was so close through 13.
You could not have got a
That's going to be really tricky.
Touch. That's
all over the second apex there. I think. Kamenev is off. He has managed to keep it going, and there's a Lexus there.
Jay Cowley. He came thundering up behind them.
I didn't even really see where Cowley came from, if I'm totally honest. But Cowley now under pressure from Toro Grosso potentially down towards turn 1. But yeah, this battle might be all the way down to outside the top 10, but it is raging on like these drivers' lives depend on it. So a lot of action and commitment going on between these guys. But yeah, blimey, that was. That was very tricky to pull off going through the chicane. It almost worked. I think maybe if the contact model between cars was a bit more forgiving in this game and a bit more realistic, it might not have ended up with Kamenev going off completely. But yeah, that was a very daring and aggressive move from Yonkers there to try to pull off.
It was some pretty brave stuff, wasn't it? The one person who has come out on top from that is Muscat. Now, yeah, basically Muscat and Bukovkin have swapped places. It's now Muscat's turn to have a go at the back of fan favourite Meerveld and see what he can do. It does look a little bit unsettled, that Audi, though, and it didn't do very well there into the Schumacher S's. It's looking like Bukovkin's going to be able to look up the inside. Not quite. Oh, there goes a brake board. Good lord, that's a completely destroyed brake board by Bukovkin.
It's been absolutely decimated.
Sending it absolutely everywhere, and now he's under attack from Yonkers. So it's all over the place, isn't it? These guys squabbling, and it's slowing them down until the gap to the pack in front of them is ginormous at this point, simply because these guys have just squabbled for so long, and like no one's fully been able to get away and stay ahead. Obviously, Meerveld doing a really good effort to hold all of these guys behind him. Essentially, sort of he is the cork in the bottle at the moment. So
yeah, it looks like he's got a decent amount of damage on the front of that car as well. So it's not going to be an easy feat. Will we see a move from Kamenev in the background? I think he thinks about it. Yeah, he's going to send it very late on Yonkers there. A bit of vengeance for that final chicane. They're going to be running side by side once again through turn 2. Kamenev being squeezed right out onto the AstroTurf. I'm sure that he won't be too pleased about that. I think even maybe a little bit of a tap in the apex of that corner, but it does look like for now Yonkers has been able to hold on to that position. Yeah, still very much a lot of battling going on. Did I see? So I did. Meerveld's gone off. Meerveld has gone off the circuit entirely.
Oh,
he's
dear.
Rejoining. Now he's got to be careful not to run too wide. Does a good job of pulling that up, but Meerveld now dropping several positions, and said cork in the bottle has now left the bottle entirely.
Yeah, that
unfortunately, that
bottle has gone.
That was rather, I don't know if he locked up, or if sometimes with that corner, the entry, you want to use as much of the sort of track and beyond on the entry to really open it up, as he then has a huge moment through the Schumacher S's as well. So one of his tyres have just had enough, maybe being pushed a bit too hard with that aero damage as well, and the amount of battling that he's had to do. But yeah, it sometimes can make the car quite loose, and he's struggling again through turn 11. I believe this is no, yes, it is 11, because this is now 12. I've been trying to work out which one it is during the race, but Toro Grosso right on his gearbox. Toro Grosso not going to look to replicate what Yonkers and Kamenev did earlier, but is firmly on the gearbox of that car. Thinks about doing something into the final corner, but won't be able to do anything just yet. Trying to set up a late apex, but in actual fact, if anything, he's put himself under pressure from Steinhauser now, who's got a very good run, is now on the inside of Toro Grosso. It's going to be M4 versus M4.
Not quite overlapping yet, though, is he? So he, under brakes, can he do it?
Well, that was very late braking for Toro Grosso, and still completely made the apex. So, well, confidently defended there from Toro Grosso, not really losing too much time in holding that position. But yeah, but again, another example was as soon as you start battling with another car, it's amazing how quickly it can compromise your lines and the amount of time that you lose. Just having a look elsewhere on the grid. Holikov, I was just going to say, is still out. He's finally come into the pits, doing 55s, very high 55s on that last lap, whereas Mark Toll, who will now reclaim the lead, has been in the 53s for the last few laps. He's set the fastest lap of the race by a huge margin on 53.6. I'm also aware that Karekas at some point when we've been looking at the other battles did make a costly mistake. He did 56 on one lap and dropped back after what was initially reeling in Massoum, and he has now dropped back quite a sizable distance. So I don't think, unless Massoum makes a mistake, that he'll be able to do too much on that. And the battle for fourth position is also still raging on, with Garbus and Pitchik very similar pace. Latz's tyres maybe fading a bit now, doesn't seem to be able to reel them in quite as much. But yeah, Bentley versus McLaren is still definitely going on for that final, or that first place outside of the podium. between these guys, and Pitchick doing a great job to hold on to that position, considering the straight line speed of that McLaren.
Going back to our battle, this is the battle for 16th place, which is the battle, which is Jay Cowley, Van Meerveld, Toro Grosso, Steinhauser, and now joining the battle as well is Matt York. Cowley, I'm not sure what happened. He suddenly was under attack from Meerveld, and that really bunched them all up a lot. So again, Meerveld being a little bit of a cork in a bottle again, and the BMWs are squabbling between Toro Grosso and Steinhauser. Look like they got a little bit unsettled there, coming out of that was turn. Oh, I've lost track of where I am on the circuit. Was that turn 3?
Might also want to jump ahead to the battle for 13th as well, with Kamenev, Yonkers and Makovkin. There was Yonkers. Oh, there might be contact at the hairpin. That was really close. Yonkers went very deep under brakes there, and Makovkin, I think, really had to back off through the middle of that corner.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to go up the inside, didn't he? It looked like he was going to try and go for it. Just shut the door on him. I mean, it was cleanly done. Oh, little look up the inside there from Kamenev. Again,
slide from Yonkers as well. Might actually didn't seem to lose too much time as a result. But Yonkers and Makovkin were going side by side through that first sector. I think it was Yonkers taking the position away from Makovkin based on what I last remember about these guys' squabble. You can see
be a change for position here back in 18th. Got to quickly say, okay, not quite able to in the chicane. But again, Matt York, amazing pace. Oh, and a mistake from Toro Grosso. He is off. He's lost 2 positions. Steinhauser and Matt York squeeze on past. Went a little bit wide on the exit of the chicane.
Was off in the background as well.
Oh God, everyone
so kicking off for the final chicane.
Everyone is going everywhere. I'm just trying to work out where everyone's gone. Meerveld, where's he gone to? He's actually managed to break away a little bit from the squabbling BMWs, but Jay Cowley is again thundering away in that Lexus, doing a real good job pulling away. Really good to see a Lexus all the way up in the top 10, to be honest. Terminen in 9th position. Well, let's quickly get him on the screen. I don't think we've seen much of Terminen this evening. Really good effort. 9th position. Say in a slightly older car, not always an overly popular car anymore, to be fair, the Lexus. Really good to see it battling so well.
Yeah, I think the recent changes have helped out a bit, but yeah, the thing that car really struggles with is usually the way that it makes its way through its tyres. It hasn't really got any sort of sophisticated aero package anyway, especially when you compare it to a lot of the newer cars. So it relies a lot purely on the mechanical grip, and it does tend to burn through them. But and I think he was actually one of the early stoppers as well, so he's done a very good job to keep the pace up during the race, as also just keeping an eye on that battle for 4th. Dennis Latz has managed to reel these 2 guys in again just a little bit, and although for the time being, yeah, you've got Pitchick and Latz both doing 54.8, Jan Garbus doing a 55 dead, excuse me, yeah, it does look like it is a bit back and forth, but it does just look like Garbus may be losing a little bit of performance potentially, or maybe just having to gather himself. He's lost just a little bit of time, only small amounts over the last couple of laps, and Dennis Latz has been creeping back up towards him, and could start to come under pressure, although as I say that, Latz has then lost a little bit of time in the opening sector. So yes, this battle for 4th keeps on closing up and opening back up again, a bit like an accordion, but for the time being it looks like these guys are going to stay in the same position.
If Garbus can hang on to that position, that'll be 2 5th places in a row, so that's going to really put him in quite a nice sort of position points-wise. Obviously, we've got Masum and Caracas obviously way up the front again this time round. But yeah, it's going to be put him in quite a decent position points-wise. It's not bad, you know, sort of 2 5th places in 2 races. That's really good. It's a lot better than coming in 1st and then 29th as Razir is at the moment. So hasn't gone his way this evening, has it, at all?
No, not at all. And I think Masuma Karekis will actually be... Oh, that was a huge moment for Karekis. Did he lose it on the exit? He barely held on to that. I just went on board with him for a second, and through the final chicane, he absolutely walloped the second curb and barely managed to hold on to that. But
I think he jumped off the first curb. I quickly went back on a replay. It looked like he jumped off the first, so the car was very unsettled when it hit the second. And then, yeah, big power slide by him.
Yeah,
that was
good car control to hold on to that one in the end and not bin what I was about to say, because I was going to say that him and Masuma I think will be equal on points for the championship lead after this race, because neither of them got fastest lap, so there won't be because I think that there's a bonus point for fastest lap, and neither of them got that last week, so they'll be equal on points, both getting a second and a third, and I don't think that there'll be anyone else really close to sort of competing with that level of consistency. So neither of them looking like they are going to get a win in the opening couple of rounds, but are firmly potentially at the top of the standings.
Just looking at the battle for fifth. Battle for fourth, apologies. Garbus looks like he's just managed to break away ever so slightly from Dennis Latz and is on the back of Pitchick. He looks ever so slightly closer. Nothing, absolutely crazy, but slightly closer. And I'm just having a quick look at the front. Times-wise, Mark Toll is 0.2 down on his lap and Masum is 0.3. So those guys might be worthwhile keeping an eye on it. They might be starting to lose pace there at the front. Like we saw Mark Toll, yeah, because Mark Toll's last lap was a 54.2 and Masum's was a 54.6. But then saying that, Caracas' last lap was a 55.3. So kind of all over the place.
Actually, just want to, sorry to cut you off there, might want to quickly jump down to the battle for 31st, would you believe it? Because there's a three-way battle going on between Yannick Ruoff, Benjamin King, and Totev. That was getting very close together in the opening part of that sector. I don't know whether or not Totev will be able to close up again on King. King, our sort of biggest jump in terms of last season's drivers. He won the championship in Tier 4 and made his way up to Tier 2. So a good. Very, very good performance from him, and he is scrabbling for those remaining positions just outside the top 30. It looks like the Totev's temporary charge may have dropped back just a bit, and it does look like those guys are spread out. So it all got quite closed up and bunched together for a short period of time. As was, I think, the battle for 25th, but that seems to have done the same. So battle's spreading out just a little bit at this late stage of the race.
It's the way, isn't it? You sort of get to this point in the race, and there are the odd battle going on. But I think also, once you've been racing for nearly 55 minutes, I do think some of these guys have to think a little bit tactical. They've got to think about the entire season. They're not just thinking about how, can I get as many points in this race? Sometimes they have to think, I could go for another position, but I might end up losing 2. Maybe I just hang on and just stick with what I've got. You've got to be a little bit tactical with it sometimes. You see it in other types of motorsport as well. Sometimes, even if you've got pace, you just have to think to yourself, this is better than a DNF. Let's just stick with what I'm doing. I think the battle for 16th is possibly hotting up a little bit. Meerveld, I think, under attack from York. Yeah, York's managed to make his way back up through that pack, hasn't he? He's got past Steinhauser and Toro Grosso, and he is now on the back of Meerveld and is really pushing up the back of him. So the tiny little McLaren versus the gigantic Bentley. It really is David and Goliath on this one. Steinhauser looking like he's trying to hang on to the back of York, but not quite able to.
Toe from York there.
It really is. Goes to the outside.
Oh,
he's done him under braking. Oh, bit of a cut, and he might lose it to
Grocer as well in the background.
Oh, and Steinhauser goes up the inside. Great move by Steinhauser, taking back 17th place, even if it is only for a second. Who gets a better run off the turn? It's looking like Steinhauser. Yeah, Steinhauser's done it. He's just about in front. Maybe they're slightly overlapping. Can York do anything here in turn 1? Can he take it back? Trying to stick around the outside. super close, not quite touching. But yeah,
fantastic racing. Yeah, that was brilliantly opportunistic there from Steinhauser to capitalise on that battle between Meerveld and Matt York. And that's what we've been saying and sort of seeing all race, is that as soon as you go to make an attempt on a move, that quite often, if you're not able to pull it off there and then, before you know it, you've got somebody else trying to overtake you. And that's exactly what Steinhauser was able to do to Matt York. And another McLaren-Bentley battle that was raging on, as I've just looked back, it's actually spread out again. But that battle for 4th place just a couple of minutes ago was almost head-to-toe between Pitchik, Garbus and Dennis Latz. But then they've each got about a car length and a half between one another now, so not quite sure how that came to be. But for now, Pitchik has got a little bit of breathing room with about, I think, with 2 laps left to go for this race.
Then, look, I don't think Pitchik's had to go defensive as of yet, and I wonder if Garbus, when he's hot lapping essentially and just trying to catch up with him, he's on his optimum line, he's just driving smooth, he's just slowly closing the gap. As soon as he then has to try and find a way round the outside of Pitchik, it's then going to slow the pair of them down. That's when Latz catch up. Then obviously Garbus is having to go slightly defensive again. And I think they'll just...
Sorry to cut you off. There was a bump between Steinhauser and York in the final corner there. York tagged the back of Steinhauser, who was all over the gearbox of Meerveld. And I think maybe just how slow Meerveld was having to go through the final corner, that it effectively stacked up and York wasn't expecting it and just tagged the back of BMW. Thankfully not too much damage done, but it has allowed Meerveld to escape, I'm sure, to the delight of his fans. But it has given Steinhauser a bit more pressure to worry about from York, and has brought Toro Grosso back into this battle as well.
Yeah, if Toro Grosso can get on the back of York, that'll be a real... York could be very disappointed about that, because obviously he pushed forward really well. Steinhauser is a very... We've seen him... It was last season, I think it was 2nd place he took at Kailami. And then had a bit of a mixed season, but he's doing... It's a really good effort he's putting in here. Like, he's racing really, like, sort of smart, to be honest. Like, obviously, he came up the back and obviously managed to overtake York. Just by playing the traffic to his advantage, really. Like, it's real good racecraft, not just outright pace, but just reading the road in front of him. And it is hard. You never really know what someone's going to do, you know. Obviously, it's a real-life person behind the wheel of all these cars. There's no AI, so it's... Sometimes someone will just decide, oh, no, I'm going to slam the door in your face and try and go. So being able to read situations and take advantage of them like he did a couple of laps back, it is an amazing skill. Meerveld is 0.8, well, 0.9 down on this lap. To be fair, Steinhauser does it like he's starting to reel him back in again. I really think Meerveld is struggling with overall pace at this point in the race.
Yeah, he's been struggling for a very long time, hasn't he? I think combination of what looks like to be quite a significant amount of damage. And I'm not sure when he did his pit stop, but with that aero damage, you do tend to put a bit of extra strain on your tyres, and the McLaren is quite an aero-dependent car. So I think is just definitely struggling with that. As a 55.9 from him. Steinhauser and Matt York more than half a second up on that time, and that was with them not exactly battling, but certainly being very close to one another. Meerveld definitely struggling. As meanwhile, I do believe that Mark Toll is not too far away from, I will say finishing this race. I won't say what position because I don't want to curse him too much.
He might be about to, I thought we were going to get another lap in, but actually no, I've cut to him because this is going to be his final lap. He's got one corner less to go. We will watch him across the line. It's been an absolutely amazing effort by him. He had a fantastic start. Big flash of the lights there. He's already celebrating. Really well done. And big round of applause for Toll. That was an amazing... So his start was fantastic. Here comes Massoum coming across the line as well to take home 2nd place. He'll be pleased with that. Really good effort by him as well.
See if there's any stewards inquiries with Massoum though, because he was involved in that contact with Marlon. I
Yes.
believe, at the very beginning of the race.
Yeah.
And it does look like, I think, Pitchick was able to hold on to 4th place in the end. Yes, he was.
Yes.
So he managed to hold on to that, which was a stellar effort from him.
So if we jump down the order a little bit, see if we can catch someone still finishing. Muscat, going to be one of our next guys across the line. Coming across.
Sorry, Matt York and Steinhauser battling into the final chicane.
Oh, yes,
Matt
they
York
are!
Trying to go around the outside. Matt York having cut across the grass there. Is going to be rejoining behind Steinhauser. And we've seen that series of events plenty of times. And Yang Gang has got a drive through.
Yeah, that's a real shame.
Final lap of the race.
Yeah.
That is awful. And Jaspowski loses it on the exit of chicane. He's gone wide. He's just about managed to keep it pointing the right direction. He will obviously recover one of those positions from Yan Gang, but yeah, that was a dramatic way for his race to end, and incredibly unfortunate for Yan Gang there to pick that up at the end of the race. So he will have 30 seconds added to his time. And also, I just want to look at the likes of Polyakov. Yeah, he finished down in 29th position. So I know that he had that 30-second time penalty in the pits, but I really don't think that the strategy that he went with, although I'm slightly hypocritical here for my past experience with strategies at the Nürburgring, but I don't think that approach quite worked for him in the way that maybe he was hoping to. I assume he was trying to stay out of traffic, drive in clean air, and make progress that way. But I think with the tyres in the state that they were after driving 45 minutes on starting on a full tank of fuel, I think that was always going to be quite an ambitious ask.
Oh, yeah, I mean, what can we even say at that point? I'm just having a quick look now over the timing board. Obviously, everyone's final positions. Just trying to work out where Gang all the way down into 33rd place. So he'd be a bit disappointed that he picked up that penalty that late in the race. Let's quickly have a look and see if anyone wants to join us for a post-race interview. Let's just pull up the bits and pieces. Just going to change over the screens. In fact, actually, no, we can leave it on there because there's not too much noise and we can just have a look at the numbers, count me at the same time. So let's see what's going on. Right, where are we looking? Is anyone in the comments in the interview box? Not yet. No one's joining us for an interview quite yet. I mean, I said obviously livery of the day was the Bentley. in my opinion, it was a little bit loud. It was pretty great. Trying to think whose Bentley was that. That was
Viuris's, I believe, who finished in 20th.
Yes.
The anime.
Yeah.
Anime Bentley.
The anime Bentley.
A close second for best livery. And also I would say for most courageous spirit would be Daniel Pashka, the 724 car, not the 742, but the 724 car down in 35th, who quite clearly was involved in a number of incidents during that race, but still soldiered on. I actually thought that he'd parked it at one point, but huge kudos to him for bringing it home and seeing that very nice McLaren, maybe slightly less shiny than it started off, but making it to the end of the race. So yeah, so it's a fantastic spirit from him.
Yeah, it's hang on, I just realised we can probably go back and watch a bit of that last lap, couldn't we? From we could probably watch the Steinhauser battle, couldn't we? Possibly. Should we have a go? Let's see if we can pull it up. Let's just quickly pull up the old replay.
Yeah, while you review that, I'm now trying to coordinate Joshua Allen into the comms box, because it looks like he wants to do an interview, but he's not quite sure where to go. So I'm
okay.
Currently trying to organise that. So you observe the final lap, and I'll see if we can get one interview.
I've pulled away from it. Joshua Allen, he's already here. He's in the ready to
brilliant.
interview box. Fantastic. I've pulled away from that because it was far too loud, far too much background noise going on. So we will pull Joshua Allen in now, and here we go. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Fantastic. Hello. Just quickly finding you. 24th position, came across the line. Are you happy with the result?
I mean, I qualified 29th, and it's my first league race on ACC proper, so 24th is good, and I think it was Gang and Lamborghini came together on the last corner, so that was good, and I was so surprised. But
Did you
24th overall, I'll take that.
did you just say this is your first league race on ACC?
Yeah.
And straight into tier 2. That is fantastic, mate. I mean, and pretty much sort of, slap bang in the middle of the grid. I mean, that's some intense work. It's really good going.
Thanks.
Yeah, as we saw during. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was a bit disappointed with the qualifying because my teammate Van Mervelde, we thought we had more in the bag, but we was just so shocked. Then Porsches were something else.
You're on the same team as Mirveld, so we need to now also start saying not just fan favourite Mirveld, we also need to start saying fan favourite Alan as well. As last season, Mirveld was very popular in the YouTube chat a lot of the time. So, oh no, fantastic. Who else have we got? We've got other people trying to join as well, I think. Have we? Who's that? I have no idea who that is. Didn't even see their name actually in the race. They're probably running a different name. I'm trying to think, what sort of strategy did you go for? Did you go for a hybrid setup or did you go purely for a dry setup on your car?
Well, me and Vince were both worried because we did some dry laps and the car was not nice. But we was glad it was dry, and we had a full wet prepared. We just went with the full dry, and it was pretty good.
Happy days. I say it was always going to be a bit of a risk, wasn't it, with the setup? But I think once we sort of got to the halfway through and we could still see there was 30 minutes of sun, I think that's when we knew it was going to be sunny the whole way through. Like you said, your setup, obviously, you went for a full dry, which obviously was a massive help for you. I'm not sure, nothing really, obviously, I would say setup-wise for anyone else that was particularly wrong. But it seemed to go quite well. What sort of time did you pick? Was it halfway through or not? What sort of strategy did you go for?
I went for a huge undercut, a huge overcut. I was thinking it was gonna work, and I was on voice chat with Vince, and was like, "Oh, it's gonna work." It didn't. I missed my box, so I got lifted back, which is like 2-3 seconds. Came out, I think P26. But I thought I'd like overcut a good like 7 people, but I'm still happy with 24th. It's good results. So.
Yeah, like you said, for your first league race, that's fantastic. You've moved forward during the race as well. I mean, and you're surrounded by some fairly, sort of big lads from last season. Who have we got around you? We've got, say, Yaroboski. He was with us last season.
He pole sitter Ollie yards from last race as well.
Yeah,
finishes ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And you got Razir. Obviously, we know he had an incident and he got penalties and stuff. But I mean, yeah, you are surrounded by some very quick guys. I say from this season and last season, there are lads that have finished behind you that have really, really pushed hard last season. So you should be really, really proud of yourself for that one, mate. Especially for your first league race. Is it just AI and casual racing you've done up to this point then?
I've done a few one-offs, like just one-off races, but I don't, and it was when I was not as high as level as I am now, so I don't count them at all.
Yep.
It was when I would go for dive bombs 5 seconds, and
Yeah.
But don't always work out so well.
Not every time. I mean, sometimes you can get away with it, and it suddenly gains you a great position if someone sees you being brave and you're trying to go up the inside. We've all done it once or twice, I think. But yeah, I mean, absolutely fantastic race, mate. Yeah, should be very proud of that 24th, and hopefully see you moving further and further up the grid throughout the rest of the season. Like we said, it's a really, really closely packed field. Like we saw in qualifying, so many people, all within a really small period of space of time. So we should be really pleased with that. I mean, yeah, well impressed. You know what? We're going to do it. We're going to go with driver of the day. In my opinion, is going to be. We'll go for you. We'll go for Alan. simply because this is your first race. You'll get the driver of the day. You don't get livery of the day, but you do get driver of the day from me.
You also get bonus points for being the only one to turn up for an interview. So
Yeah.
technically, you were first into the commentary box today, and I'm sure that counts for something in the standings as well.
Yeah. So pole position when it comes to getting in the commentary box.
I'll tell you one thing: if me and Vince had our custom liveries from our team, we would win that as well.
I'm sure if you upload it to your upload it to the system, I'm sure we can get it on at some point, as long as you don't upload it 5 minutes before the race, because I got to have a little bit of time to get it all set up and going. Which but yeah, so if you have got a livery, don't feel shy, send it through to your coordinator, and then I'm sure they can or message your coordinator, and I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction. I'm sure we can squeeze a couple more in. My computer loves it. My computer loves it when I suddenly throw loads more liveries on it. So it's all good. Right. I think we're going to probably have to call it a day at this point. Thank you ever so much for joining us, Alan. Any final words before we move on?
Thanks for hosting the races, and I'll be back for an interview in Brands Hatch when me and Vince won to the race by 30 seconds.
Fantastic,
Ooh.
optimistic spirit. That's what I like to. That's what I like to hear. Yeah, we'll see how that transpires. But I'm sure that you and Vince will both be coming back with learning from some of the things pace-wise about the car today, and yeah, looking to get yourselves nearer the front for Brands Hatch. So we'll all be looking forward to that, and I'm sure also the fans of your team will be hoping for that as well.
Right, see you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, Joshua.
Well, only one man was brave enough. One man was brave enough to join us. So, like I said, driver of the day. It's his first league race. Fantastic. And his first league race is in Tier 2. So, amongst the aliens. He is well and truly amongst his xenomorphs and predators and, I don't know, strange things from Mars Attacks. But thank you. Thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. Anything you want to sign off with, John?
Well, I suppose, I think the biggest takeaway from today was that whilst we didn't have maybe not always the most exciting of action up the front, that we had fantastic battles all throughout the grid, which once again has shown that really doesn't matter where you are kind of within the field, or really regardless of what tier you're in, that you do always get some fantastic racing. And I would say that anyone that's thinking about getting into league racing, obviously Josh has just started, that evidently AOR is a good place to do that, as you're pretty much guaranteed to have some fantastic on-track action, and I'm sure that will carry over into next week for Brands Hatch.
Fingers crossed. I say, yeah, Brands Hatch next week. I think Turn 1's going to be exciting. It always is, regardless of who is racing there. It's always certainly a watch. We'll say that. So thank you ever so much for joining us, guys, and we will see you next Tuesday, 7:30 for qualifying at Brands Hatch.
Cheerio, everybody.